You're about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating talk radio. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So the COVID vaccine debacle just keeps getting deeper and deeper into chaos as we see some of Dr. Fauci's texts to Robin Walensky and other CDC heads. And it's no shock. As I've said before, I was very grateful to Biden and Trump to have a vaccine available because COVID did kill and we needed a vaccine available. The mandate should have never happened. And the fallout of doctors, especially OBs, going, I'm not ready to give this to my pregnant women. People got sidelined, fired, shadow banned, and we were right. We were like, look, in medicine, we're taught that nothing is 100% safe. You always have to have informed consent. And you weigh the benefit and the risk. And when this Brooklyn waitress early on got fired, she was in her third trimester, and she got fired from her job as a waitress because she wouldn't get the COVID vaccine. She's like, I've had miscarriages before. I finally have a baby that is possibly making its term. I don't want to do anything extra. Doesn't matter. She got fired. Well, why? Well, because Fauci kept saying you got to follow the science. You got to follow the science. Well, what was his science? Well, his science, according to this text, was, there could be risks to the fetus and the pregnant mom. Well, then what the hell happened? So many news outlets, I'm getting this from WBAL TV, said that there was one exchange between Dr. Vivek Murthy, who was the Surgeon General at the time in Joe Biden's I believe in Joe Biden's presidency, as well as I think he also served with Obama. And he was on the COVID advisory board. And so Dr. Vivek Murthy, and appropriately so, asked Dr. Fauci, what about the risk to those who are pregnant? And if Fauci knew of any, quote, data on theoretical reason why vaccinating early versus late in pregnancy would be preferred. Dr. Fauci said there's no data or theoretical reason to believe that vaccinating early versus later in pregnancy would be preferred. But then he said, since many people have significant cytokine storm and fever after the second dose, this theoretically could be associated with miscarriage in the first trimester. And there was actually some studies looking at miscarriage risk with the vaccine. He attributed it to the significant cytokine storm and fever, which is also very telling because what was killing people with COVID was cytokine storm. So if the shot caused cytokine storm, right? I mean, you needed to make patients aware of that and make sure that your hospitals have plenty of ventilators, plenty of oxygen, plenty of hospital beds in case we're giving a shot to somebody who could cause cytokine storm. But in his words, since many people have significant cytokine storm, not some, not a handful, he said many people have significant cytokine storm and fever after the second dose. This theoretically could be associated with miscarriage in the first trimester. Dr. Rochelle Walensky, then director of the CDC, chimes in and says, definitely a good point, especially after dose 2. So then after that discussion, did they say, guys, if you're pregnant, here's the scoop. You don't have to say one way or another. Just educate us. Share what you know. Nothing. In fact, I got chewed out by somebody at the American Academy of Family Physicians because I supported RFK Jr.'s suggestion that newborns and young babies, healthy babies might not need the COVID vaccine, to let the pediatrician and the parents and individual decision-making happen. And which is kind of what we really support in medicine. Decision-making. What the doctor, do all healthy people need? Do no harm. And instead, and this person was going back and forth. I go, even OBs, and they were talking about with pregnant women, where you don't have to mass vaccinate pregnant women. And this person who was not a doctor was going back and forth with me on that. And I go, because there could be risks to the pregnant mom. There you go. There's even a text from Fauci saying there could be a risk. Mind you, I'm not anti-vaccine. I believe the COVID vaccine helped people not get COVID. In fact, when I got the COVID booster, I felt like crap. I'm probably never going to get another booster again, but I have to admit, I'm honest with you guys, I didn't get COVID that year or the year after. I got COVID this year, and it sucks. I mean, it took weeks to recover. But it's my choice if I want to get a vaccine or not. These pregnant women didn't feel like they had a choice. And if they had some instinct going, look, I just want to play it safe. People said, well, COVID is worse for your baby than the shot. Where was the science? Well, if we're supposed to follow the science by Fauci, there's Fauci's text. And he didn't say some or a stark few. He said many, W-A-N-Y. Well, to me, that's already a no-brainer. Then we pause and we let the patients and the doctors decide. No, it was mandated. In another exchange a day later, according to screenshots released, Fauci said that any vaccine with limited data on pregnancy should be carefully considered. He said one must weigh the potential risks against the benefits. Now, he said that because COVID could be serious in pregnancy. He's not wrong. But if that's what he shared with the other doctors, then why didn't he share that with the public? You see, doctors really can't BS each other. Because we all have very similar training, and we have to pass our boards. Even if you train out of the country, you still have to pass your boards, and you still have to follow the proper protocols. But he's talking to doctors, going, "Yeah, there could be risks." Okay, well then, what are you saying to the public? That's wrong. So, in August 11th of 2021, the CDC formally recommended that pregnant people get the vaccine, saying there is, quote, no increased risk of miscarriage or other safety concerns. They say pregnant people were not included in the vaccine trials. So where did you get that science? This is why I do agree an investigation needs to happen, because we need to learn from past mistakes. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years, stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's Aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So one thing I predicted with the COVID vaccine mandate is vaccine hesitancy would skyrocket, that parents would be less trustful of what was going on in the government's approach to the vaccines. And as you saw what happened with the Fauci texts, where he admitted that there could be risk. He said many people got significant cytokine storm, which could affect the pregnancy and affect miscarriage risk. That I predicted that, if we really are, as a medical society, pro-vaccine, for the love of God, don't mandate the COVID vaccine, because you are really going to reverse the progress we made on vaccines, because people are not going to trust the government. And it came true. I didn't want it to come true, but now you have parents saying, to hell with all of this. I'm not at all going to vaccinate. And we are seeing a rise in infectious disease, as a result of unvaccinated communities. Although we are, and I say this really emphatically, seeing some rises in people who were vaccinated, which is why I've always advocated, always reevaluate the vaccine. Do we need an MMR booster? Oh, Dr. Dahlia, how could you say that? Well, we needed a booster for pertussis. Okay, we're always supposed to reevaluate. So I've seen a lot of patients who were unvaccinated, not because I'm anti-vaccine, I'm pro-vaccine, but because I wouldn't kick the kid out and I wouldn't turn patients away. So somehow online, parents are like, look, Dr. Wax won't kick you out of the office. She will see your sick kid if they're unvaccinated, which I'm kind of blown away that there's doctors. And I understand, because doctors are like, well, we have a sick room and we have an unsick room. Although, how do you know? Somebody could be sick and, and still be contagious and they don't feel it yet. You have a child. It's not their fault that they aren't vaccinated. Take care of the child. And there were a lot of doctors that are like, look, I don't want the liability. Because remember, the liability, people were losing their malpractice insurance. People were being sued left and right in the early 2000s and late 90s. So a lot of pediatricians are like, I'm not even going to see the patient. Well, for me, I'm like, look, I got to see the patient. If the boy has a fever, whether he's vaccinated or not, I got to take care of this kid. So I saw a lot of parents and I asked them. And I'm like, so what are your concerns? Teach me. What are your concerns about the vaccines? Some were worried about sudden infant death. Some were worried about autism. Some were worried about, and I learned a lot about what parents were concerned about. But the one thing I could say about every single parent is every one of them loved their kid. And they were like, Dr. Wax, how do I, because that was before I was Dr. Dahlia. Right? Dr. Wax, how do I know I'm making the right decision when my child is healthy? And here they are, and they're moving, and they're smiling, and I inject something into their body. How do I know I'm not going to regret it? And I go, you don't. But what I can tell you is you will regret if they do get meningitis, if they do get pneumonia, if they do get polio. So you're going to feel guilty and regret no matter what. Your job is to make the best educated decision. So educate yourself. And I got to tell you, the majority of the parents who came to me still at some point did decide to give their kids some vaccines, because another very common concern parents had is they weren't anti-vaccine. They just were anti so many of them. And they were like, look, it's just the doctor wanted to stick 6 needles into my 2-month-old's leg. I'm not anti-vaccine, but why can't I wait till that child's older? Well, remember, in the olden days, babies would die. And so we wanted to protect them as early as possible, especially if moms weren't breastfeeding and we didn't think the kid would get enough antibodies. But you had parents going, can I wait till their immune system is stronger? So I would refer them to the health department for vaccine classes and for them to get all their questions answered. But if there was a kid with strep throat and ear infection or whatever, I would take care of them. I just didn't want them kicked out of a doctor's office. And that's for the parent to learn and we offered vaccines in our office, of course. But after the COVID vaccine mandate, parents are like, I'm done. It is politicized. And I go, but it's not supposed to be politicized. But And then you see these Fauci texts acknowledging that there's a risk to pregnant women. Meanwhile, pregnant women were fired. Pregnant women were discriminated against if they didn't get the shot. And there were a lot of OBs who didn't want to give the shot, and they didn't. But I believe the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists recommended the shot. And so now people had to fight with their medical board. So here we are with vaccine hesitancy at an all-time high because parents are thinking that it's all political, that, you know, they're that it's not, it's all pro big pharma. So the common denominator of what parents wanted is, how can I look at the risks versus the benefits? Who's looking at the risks versus the benefits? Who's going to be honest that there are some risks? You know, even if you told me that the risks are small compared to benefits, admitting that there's risks does a lot to make me think you're actually being honest. So they want honesty. And then another question parents had is, why do we have so many vaccines when other developed countries don't? Well, our answer to that was, well, America's better and we have better health care. But then people are looking at the numbers where autism rates are higher, our pediatric illnesses are still high compared to UK and others. And so a lot of people aren't buying that argument. So Trump comes in and says, look, okay, we have all the vaccines available if you want, but we're going to just recommend the main 11. And then if you do want the Hep A and the Hep B and the meningococcal, you could get it. If your baby's high risk, they should get it. You know, and then if you want COVID or flu, you could have it, but we're just not going to mandate it, or we're not going to recommend. Another thing that they're also going to do is, a lot of parents were worried about the aluminum and other adjuvants, which were in the vaccine. Because see, what happens is, you can't just put, a lot of our vaccines are killed vaccines where you have the skeleton of the virus, or you have a live attenuated version like the MMR, the varicella, where we have a weakened version. But you can't just inject that into a body. You need an adjuvant to kind of wake up the immune system and go, look at this here, look at this. And they're like, oh, look at it and learn. So these wake up components, these adjuvants, are what some people have been concerned about causing neurodegenerative and neurological side effects. They don't believe it's the actual vaccine or what's being introduced in terms of the pathogen. They think it's the adjuvant. That's why thimerosal got stopped and other things, because people are like, what else is in this? So in Trump's executive order, he wants to make sure that we're developing alternative adjuvants to aluminum and conducting comparative safety and efficacy studies. I think all doctors would agree with that one. They want to also ensure continuous evaluation of the risk-benefit profiles of all childhood vaccines based on the United States and international data, and improve vaccine safety monitoring, transparency, and research. They also want to assess the ideal timing and sequencing of all core childhood vaccines and adjust the federal childhood and adolescent vaccine schedule as appropriate based on gold standard science. So does that mean what the UK gives is gold standard, or Denmark? I mean, Denmark is very stringent on the number of vaccines they give. Denmark has studied this a lot, but is that the gold standard? So there's going to be a lot of debate as to what exactly is the gold standard and what, but I think for vaccine hesitancy groups, this is what a lot of them have asked for. Can we please see the data? Can you ensure us that you are reviewing it? As opposed to Fauci in his text admitting there's a problem, but then not telling the public. If you think there's a problem, could you share that with us? Okay, we're parents. We're trying to make an informed decision. You know, Trump wanting to split up the MMR, I understand the theory behind that, because one of the quadrivalent MMR vaccines had to be stopped. I think there was the MMR plus the varicella, and there were side effects, so they had to stop it. So I get that, because if there is a component that could be, you know, related to side effects, it would be interesting to split it up. But I don't think that's going to help with vaccine hesitancy, because now you're tripling the amount of vaccines to do the measles, the mumps, and the rubella. So, you know, the MMR is a safe vaccine, but to split it up could now increase risk by 3. So I it's a little counterintuitive for that, but I get why Trump is saying we need to have the single individuals, because if, let's say, we are having a measles outbreak and we're not seeing mumps, we're not seeing rubella, we're just seeing measles, well, then why don't we just boost the measles version? So there is logic behind that. That's, you know, doctors think that same way. You know, why give more than you have to? But because there's so many vaccines, they've been trying to combine them, because it's just so many shots in these little kids' thighs. You know, so just to quickly review, you know, Trump is recommending based on him and the HHS, that all children get measles, mumps, rubella, diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, polio, Haemophilus influenza type B, pneumococcal disease, human papillomavirus, and varicella. High-risk groups or populations, RSV also, hepatitis A, hepatitis B, meningococcal B, meningococcal ACWY, and dengue. And then immunizations based on shared decision-making. If a parent wants hepatitis A, B, rotavirus, meningococcal disease, influenza, COVID-19, they can still get it. So have the vaccines available, and let there be some shared decision-making. I think it'll help the vaccine hesitancy, and we might get more trust. But we got to make sure that we're always evaluating the science. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme. The solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So it's primary day. Voters are heading to the polls in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Vermont, and Connecticut, as well as in South Carolina. Senator Lindsey Graham's sister, who was nominated by the governor to fill his seat temporarily, is also running. There's some Alabama House districts. And it's going to be very, very interesting. Of course, all eyes are on this completely crazy candidate. I'm kind of blown away. Representative Francesca Hong, who is a Democratic socialist, and in a rapid-fire interview with Hassan Piker, agrees with everything he stands for, which is a little disgusting and anti-American, had even said she thinks Thanksgiving should have never happened and been canceled. And then she goes, oh, it's my favorite holiday. So, she up against, in this Democratic primary for Wisconsin governor, against David Crowley. And the outgoing governor, Tony Evers, did not endorse her. He endorsed her rival, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley. But it looks like Representative Francesca Hong is leading the polls and may actually win the Democratic nomination. In Minnesota, I believe Mike Lindell, MyPillow CEO, is running for governor of the Republican primary, facing, and then he would face Senator Amy Klobuchar, who is wanting to run and fill the seat for Governor Tim Walz. Klobuchar, very popular among Democrats. I don't believe she has the taint of the DSA on her. But up against the MyPillow guy, I don't know what that would look like. So that's what's going on there. And then, of course, U.S. Senator Darlene Graham is up against two congressmen and a former governor. There's about 10 Republicans competing in this special election to replace her brother, the late Senator Lindsey Graham. I'm blown away at her stamina, considering the loss of her brother. She has she's lost her parents. She's lost her brother. And for her to be able to fill his seat as quickly as she did, she is so in such grace, in the face of grief. I don't really follow a lot of South Carolina politics, but Trump did endorse her. She is the first woman to represent South Carolina in the U.S. Senate. If no candidates capture the 50% vote threshold, there's going to be a runoff, unlike what happened in Michigan with El Sayed and Haley Stevens, where it just went to Syed. but even though he had a very, very thin majority and did not get 50% of the vote. You're seeing Alabama, Connecticut, and Vermont holding primaries, including governor races. And so, Hong has in Wisconsin, a lot of eyes are on her because she is a very radical DSA and has said some real stupid stuff. And, where is her background in running such a vibrant, amazing state like Wisconsin? Apparently, in a recent Marquette University poll, 34% of Democratic voters are still undecided. They could vote against Hong, but Hong is getting all the attention because a lot of the younger people and Hassan Piker and everybody is putting her out there. And so the Democrats are starting to run into issues that the Republicans had where they're older. Many of them are older. Many of them are not as in tune and up with the more vibrant youth sort of vote and youth canvassing and campaigning. And so also, many individuals, the older they get, the more difficult it is they feel to go to the polls. They also don't trust that their vote's going to be quiet, that their vote's going to be sacred and private. And so I think a lot of the older Democrats, I don't really believe that the majority of Americans support DSA candidates, even with Mamdani. With the Mamdani win in New York City, 1 in 8 people voted, and only 1 million people voted in that election. Now, he won the majority, but that's not the majority of New Yorkers. And so if people don't want to vote and don't want to get out there and vote, then you're going to have these candidates that are bussing people in or knowing how to, ride that younger, social media wave. They're gonna keep winning. And if they win, one election, they could very easily now transfer into other parts. Because we were like, well, whatever happens to Michigan, El Sayed, that's just Michigan. Well, no, because he's running for U.S. Senate. He's going to be in the U.S. Senate if he wins. These people will later run for president. Look at AOC. I mean, it's frightening, frightening stuff. And if they are siding with somebody who thought 9/11 was warranted, how are they going to protect our country? How are they going to ensure we have no more acts of terrorism? When Hassan Piker, who Hong has been very public with, said that the rapes and the attack by Hamas was justified, that's frightening stuff. And then what are these other Democrats doing when they lose to these radical socialists? Are they fighting back? No. They're like, well, I'm going to support. Haley Stevens said, oh, yeah, I'm going to be supporting Hassan Piker. I'm Democrat. I have to support the Democrat. Really? That's not a Democrat. I know Democrats. Democrats do not support what Hamas did. Democrats do not feel 9/11 was justified. You're going to have to step back from this whole DR thing. Luckily, Fetterman has some cojones, and even he said he'll leave. Even James Carville said he might leave. I mean, you have a reputation to protect. Haley Stevens got AIPAC money. She describes herself as a Zionist who agrees that Israel does have a right to exist. Just like the UAE has a right to exist, and Saudi Arabia, and Jordan, and Egypt, and Lebanon. Israel has a right to exist. And she's going to throw that support away by siding with somebody who sided with Hassan Piker, who sides with Hamas? That's some frightening stuff. And Wisconsin, and I've had a really good relationship with Wisconsin governors because of Wisconsin Blood Donation Day. And so for the last 10 years, I've worked with Evers. I've worked with, oh my gosh, the one before the Republican who I really, really like also. I'm sorry, his name is slipping my mind. But, so to see things change like this, I love Wisconsin. I'm licensed in Wisconsin. And sorry, I want to get, Scott Walker. I got a nice picture with him too. I like Scott Walker, really, really nice guy, and he helped me with Blood Donation Day. It's an original year in Wisconsin. I'm nervous because I don't want to see a country go to hell because and here's the thing: if you lived in a socialist regime and benefited from it, and you came to America and said, "Look, guys, I want to bring you these ideas. This is what was good about socialism." Okay, I might listen to what you have to say, but you were born in America. You enjoyed what capitalism gave you, and then now you want to blow it up. No, I don't buy that. You know nothing about socialism. You know nothing about what's going on in these other countries. You just want to get elected. And you feel that people are going to be stupid enough to listen to your lies. Well, we're just going to tax the hell out of the rich. What does that mean? And then if you do tax the hell out of the rich, does that mean we now have to pay more for our milk? We have to pay more for our hamburger? We have to pay more for our iPhone? When you tax the rich, we end up having to pay. So you got to make some sense here. 1-877 Dr. Dolly.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Dahlia here. Thousands of physicians, residents, nurses, and medical students are silently dealing with depression. And tragically, 400 take their lives each year. 400! I wrote The Depressed Doctor, hoping to reach out to anyone struggling. You're not alone. Don't stay silent. The Depressed Doctor can be found on Amazon, or the book can be found on drdahlia.com. And if you or anyone you know needs help, call or text 988, the National Suicide and Crisis Hotline.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So it's interesting because a lot of people are predicting what AI is going to do and what society is going to look like. And I keep thinking that society, is going to look like Ready Player One. Ready Player One, you have to read the book because I don't think the movie did it justice, where I think it's set in like 2045, where the kids roll out of bed and then they put on their VR headset and they log in. And if they don't log in, the teacher says they're absent, so there's consequences. Can't be tardy, can't be absent, but you log in. And you do school virtually. Roll out of bed, put on your computer, and you're in school. And then in terms of work, many people are working from home. It's all virtual jobs and virtual currency and virtual this. And then when you need to eat something, it gets delivered to you. And so I know that's a book, but it's interesting how you're having CEOs say, oh, yeah, commutes, those are going to be extinct. Our grandkids are going to be like, what? You actually had to leave the house to go to work and you rode a subway? And they're going to be shocked by that. According to Fortune magazine, the return to office mandates are just a blip. You are going to be, according to Mark Dixon, CEO of IWG, the world's largest workspace provider, you are going to be working from, the average person will be working from home. Commuting would be extinct within the next 15 years. Gen Alpha will be so used to pulling out their phones and clocking into work from anywhere convenient that they'll find the very idea of commuting into an office as ancient as riding a horse to work or writing by candlelight before electricity existed. Dixon said in the future, you're going to explain to your kids that you used to commute, that you would have to travel 100 miles to sit down or use a computer. They'll say, why did you do that? Because they won't understand that people traveled long distances to use a piece of equipment somewhere else. It's going to change a lot. The workplace of the future is everywhere, and it'll be very productive. He said it'll be just normal to go onto your phone and say, where's the nearest place to work? And you go there and work. Okay, but here's my issue with that. And I understand I'm not a CEO. Okay, what work is going to be left? What work is there going to be? So going onto your phone, you know, in Ready Player One, I think a lot of people were doing customer service and tech support. But right now, the reason why there's such a plethora of jobs is when you walk around New York City, there's that storefront, there's that storefront, there's that storefront. Somebody has to sit and work and say, look, our clothes are better than the next guy. Our pizza is better than the next guy. Our phones are better than the next guy. Well, when those storefronts close and somebody just goes online, it's going to be monopolies of online services. Or the government's going to run everything. Everybody's going to get a phone. Everybody's going to get healthcare. Everybody's going to get, so it's all going to be one unit. And so you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to work from home. There's going to be a job where I work from home. Not if they could get AI to do it. I mean, how many times have I called customer service and it's just a bot? I don't get a human. There's no humans at X or Twitter. There's no humans at Meta I could talk to. You're just getting bots. So what job are you actually going to have? I've already seen customer service replaced by AI. So if there's no storefront, if there's no face-to-face commerce, what happens? What happens to real estate? I mean, it's just going to be warehouses and buildings? We really need to kind of think about this because is this really where we want to go? Now, I'm not a shopper. I don't like to go shopping. I don't like to go to the mall. Now, if it's to walk around, to get some ice cream and to get some exercise and to just kind of, BS with my friends, maybe. But do I like to shop? No. Now, there are some people that do. So there may actually be stores where somebody really wants to go in and look and touch something and buy. But with massive unemployment and massive real estate costs, and I don't think we're going to have that many options out there. So the idea of you don't have to commute, you could just work from home. There's not going to be that many jobs. It's interesting. A lot of doctors reach out about telemedicine to me. And they're like, they want to do telemedicine, but they're having trouble. Every company they call, they go, we're not hiring. We have enough doctors. And they're like, why is that? I thought we don't have enough doctors. And isn't telemedicine rising? Well, telemedicine, the jobs that are out there now are these new companies that want to sell GLP-1s. So you're getting a lot of those. Everybody and their mother wants to sell GLP-1s, and it's compounded, and there has to be something else in there, so it's not the same as the brand name. And so they're looking for doctors to do that. But for doctors who want to do regular medicine, a lot of these companies are like, we can't take anymore because we can barely give enough work to the current doctors we have. If doctors are only seeing one patient a month, they're going to quit. So we have to make sure that we don't have too many staff people. And I hear from doctors all the time going, nobody's hiring. Why can't I get a telemedicine job like you? See, I got in 2019, right before COVID. And I'm glad I did. And I had multiple licenses. And thank God I was very positioned. And my company is amazing who I work for. But, there's only so many telemedicine jobs. There's only so many virtual jobs that are out there. And if humans don't figure this out, we're going to be in one hell of a depression. It is amazing how things come and go very easily with the economy. And so one thing that got us out of depressions in the past and major recessions was job creation. Job creation was huge, whether it was for the war effort, whether it was for the Industrial Revolution. It was, if we make jobs, if the government makes jobs, they're putting you to work. Well, what if the military is now all about drones and robots? What if the jobs are just all virtual? Now, we're going to need laborers. We're still going to need people who know electricians. And my hot water heater went out again. Yeah, so I had no hot water for a week. I've been washing my hair in the sink, but luckily we got it, so I got water. Thank God the guy came out. He knew what he could do. He could fix it. So we're still going to need those people, but it's not going to be enough to give 300 plus million people work. And we're really trying to do away with customer service. One is employers don't want to hire staff because they're expensive. There's, labor laws and workers' comp and things like that. So it's easier for them to just do kiosk. But if you're going to do kiosks, then you don't need a McDonald's. You can just order from your house. And then there's delivery. They're already working on driverless delivery. Because you're like, well, somebody's going to have to deliver the DoorDash. No, now they have Waymos. And they have drones and things that could drop off packages. We humans are very easily putting ourselves out of a job market. I used to think there is no way a computer would take over medicine. No way. Humans wouldn't stand for it. Humans are asking for it. Humans want their Z-Pack and fries, and they don't want a doctor say no. So they want to manipulate the computer so they get what they want. They want their Viagra, they want their GLP-1, they want their pain medication, they want their antibiotic. Now, the average smart person that's scared about their health does want somebody to take a look and evaluate. But are they calling a doctor first? No, they're still going to AI. They're still going to the computer to get this figured out. Well, that's even medicine. Now, dentistry, I think, is still going to be okay. I know they're trying to find new ways to build enamel, new ways to fix cavities, but dentistry, I think, is still going to be okay. But there's so many other jobs that aren't. And so the idea, watch, or I would say read the book of Ready Player One, because that's really how I see the next few decades panning out. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.